Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. SANTULAN, hypothalamus and equilibrium, balance. Divyank, the walking, talking encyclopedia. My mission, the impeccable wisdom, knowing which everything is fully known. My greatest discovery, Divyank, the divine design of nature, with which the perfect objects are designed and created. Divyank is the reward of 60 years of integrated education. Let me start with this particular picture. You have already seen this particular picture in the voice of my guru, the voice of silence of my soul. Now let me go into the background of this particular picture, which I will be showing also. Now, way back in 1995, when I had first dialogue with my voice of silence, and when I was told that I've been chosen to do something of this class at that stage, and somehow I trusted the voice and asked, what do I do? Then I was made to understand that I should start a charitable trust. First, Akhand Foundation. I started that in 95, Vijayadashmi. And followed by, I was asked to make a logo for Akhand Foundation, which was also done effectively with the guidance of my voice of silence in 9 stages. And that particular symbol is more or less center of this particular picture on the left side. After that, I was made to redesign the symbol with the experiences of spiritual science experience which were given to me during some of the yoga training programs earlier. And with the help of those particular experiences and voice of silence, I improvised that logo to this particular picture, which I called at that stage Akhand. Having in this particular picture made me understand graphic presentation or ideal form or picture of goddess Gayatri as well as Lord Dattatreya. Lord Dattatreya is equivalent to Shakta and goddess Gayatri could be called Shakti. And all those concepts I could understand in this picture, and I felt what a wonderful journey or what a wonderful work with the ancient Indian sages have converted mantras and ancient Indian wisdom of spirituality in a graphic presentation in pictures for the benefit of humanity. All those pictures of gods and goddesses are not imaginations of an artist, but they're full of science, and that's what I'm trying to understand and explain in that. Having done this, understood the animate form and converted it into semi-animate form, I asked the voice of silence. I trust you, you taught me, and I'm grateful to you. But if you can make me convert these animate and semi-animate into a totally inanimate form, where there is no male, there is no female, there is no animal, there is no plant, just with the geometry and mathematics. Same concept could be seen with absolutely no doubt, without any imagination. Explicitly should be there. Can you make me do? And if you make me do that, I would follow voice of silence for the rest of my life as a very faithful instrument of voice of silence for the rest of my life. I promise. And the result was this particular picture you can see on the right side. Center you can see Dattatreya. That right at the bottom you can see 3 heads. As you can see, 3 heads of Dattatreya. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Then Gayatri has got 5 heads. Right on top you can see 5 heads. 1 in the center, 2 on left side, 2 on the right side, which 5 represent 5 heads of Gayatri, which represent Panchabhutas or 5 elements. And right in the middle you can see 4 lotus petals there, which represent 4 dogs of Dattatreya and 4 Vedas. And here also you see 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 12. And how it was designed I have already explained in one of the videos. You can go back and see how beautifully I was guided step by step to come to this particular picture. when I finish this picture, now I have brought that picture also in this particular picture to show this is associated with forehead, and forehead is associated with hypothalamus. Now you see how the science and spirituality are coming close to each other. And whereas the picture down is Agnya Chakra, which is associated with brainstem or pituitary gland. So I'm sure Vigyan Chakra, way back in 1997, has brought a new awareness, and I'm really grateful to Voice of Silence to make me understand ancient Indians' wisdom of Vedas and Upanishads in the light of modern sciences and represent in a new graphic way, new symbolic representation for the benefit of the world on one side. At the same time, as with the help of these symbols, I'm able to understand perfect human anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and psychology much better than I had understood for all 55 years of my learning anatomy, physiology, and medical sciences. Now, in the light, I'm trying to explain every concept very clearly with the scientific evidence for the perfect objects. Now, hypothalamus is so-called Vigyan Chakra. Ajna Chakra is associated with pituitary gland and brainstem. But there's a close association between hypothalamus and pituitary gland, which I am trying to show. There is a hypothalamic hypophyseal axis, that means blood, which picks up the capillaries from the hypothalamus nuclei, goes directly to the anterior pituitary, which can be called adenohypophysis, and all the hormones which are produced in the hypothalamus are called releasing hormones. They are in picogram, very small doses. They need to be delivered directly into the anterior pituitary. That's the reason we have a portal system called hypothalamic hypophyseal axis. What a beautiful design. And and then these vessels, portal veins, or you can call it capillaries, both ends are capillaries, are placed between hypothalamus and pituitary. And posterior part, neurons which produce neurohormones, they are in hypothalamus, but excretion is carried to the posterior pituitary called neurohypophysis to be released from there. Synthesis is in the hypothalamus. So hypothalamus and pituitary act as one unit. And that's the reason I do see a close association between Vigyan Chakra and Agnya Chakra. If I have to correlate with the planets, I would say Vigyan Chakra is associated with Jupiter, and Agnya Chakra is with asteroid belt, where everything is segregated. But both work in unison with each other to control the universe and solar system on one side and human anatomy on this side. From that point of view, I think there's a lot of information which we'll discuss at a later date. Let me not confuse. Let's stick to neuroanatomy and physiology alone. Now, having understood the spiritual science aspect of SANTULAN, equilibrium, balance, hypothalamus, for maintaining perfect physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health, homeostasis 24/7, equilibrium, equanimity is one part. Now, this particular picture again was drawn by me quite some time back to show the three outer layers of neocortex, which are our antenna to the higher consciousness. But I have marked the fourth layer quite distinct so that all the reflexes which are carried to the fourth layer, sensory, they come back on that. So here also brain works as a unit. Afferent fibers from the body are carried to thalamus, and thalamus, they do go to hypothalamus. So that association between thalamus and hypothalamus has to be very clearly defined. Then hypothalamus to pituitary gland and other parts, a close association so that they work as unit and control to make sure the integration takes place, equilibrium takes place. All those centers which are responsible for equilibrium, homeostasis and balance are in the hypothalamus. And right in the middle you have seen the hypothalamus in red color, where other important areas are associated. Now hypothalamus is close to the third ventricle. And here you can also see supraoptic nucleus and also pituitary gland. And you can also see third ventricle, you can see aqueduct, you can see fourth ventricle, you can see insular cortex, you can see frontal motor cortex, you see parietal cortex, temporal and occipital, and of course cerebellum also. They are all closely associated so that there is a coordination, there is a balance, where the entire work of the nervous system is to make sure, come what may, you should be perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy. So from this angle, I think I'm quite clear. Neuroanatomy of hypothalamus, neurophysiology. Let's understand how it functions. Now, that particular picture is one dimension on the lateral side. Now, this is the frontal section, which you can see major nuclei on left as the right, both the sides how they go. In the center, you can see third ventricle right now, down. Here also you can see blood vessels without blood-brain barrier are closely associated with third ventricle. Whereas all the nuclei, you can see the blood vessels are with barrier, blood-brain barrier. Not everything can go there. At this particular junction, let me also tell you, brain by and large uses only glucose and oxygen for its uptake. But I am of the opinion that fructose also plays very important role in brain functions. But if you are going back to my old picture, even glucose is converted into fructose 6-phosphate. So from that point of view, fructose, glucose, water, oxygen are the energy which are absolutely essential. Rest of the things which are not required cannot go to this nuclei and damage them. So the brain is fully protected otherwise. So from that point of view, different main nuclei I have presented there. Let's not go into detail here. Let's go to another picture to understand things much more clearly. Now, please look at this picture very carefully. This is book from Guyton and Hall, which is a textbook of medical physiology, internationally recommended. Even I would recommend students to read Guyton and Hall better than other books. But I am, from my personal experience as an undergraduate in Madras Medical College, I still feel 1968 version of Best and Taylor was much better than Guyton or Samsonite or other books available at that time. Particularly nervous system, as explained in Best and Taylor, was phenomenal. But unfortunately, the book is not available. I couldn't get a copy of that to represent here. But Guyton was also available, is one of the ancient books, and is still available and is recommended for all the medical students throughout the world. And this particular picture is from Guyton and Hall. Very authentic, very well done. So I think using this, let's understand major nuclei and their functions. Let's start from the anterior part of hypothalamus. Now you can see on top paraventricular nucleus, green color. It produces oxytocin, which is one neurohormone responsible for feel-good effects, lactation, as well as delivery of the child. Also, ADH, antidiuretic hormone vasopressin, which is responsible for water conservation. Second nucleus, which is important here, medial preoptic area. Those nuclei responsible for bladder contraction, decrease heart rate, decreased blood pressure. Mark that. Let's go only by what is written here. Third, posterior preoptic and interior hypothalamic area, body temperature regulation, panting, sweating, and thyrotropin inhibition. Okay, I'm sure you have made a note of it in your mind. And then go to optic chiasma. This is optic nerve. They cross over in front of hypothalamus to both the sides. Eyes, optic nerve, optic tract of chiasma, and then go. Then you there in this particular picture is supraoptic nucleus which produces vasopressin or antidiuretic hormone ADH, which is again for water conservation. Here two hormones are produced in the interior part. I think that should be quite well understood. These hormones are produced by these paraventricular and supraoptic, which are in the interior part of hypothalamus. And right in the infundibulum, you have seen that. So I want you to remember these two, all these nuclei are in the interior part. Now let's go to the posterior side. Dorsomedial nucleus. You can see in the middle part, but little back, because it's a dorsomedial. Posterior part, but middle. It is responsible gastrointestinal stimulation for digestion. Posterior hypothalamic nucleus, increased blood pressure, pupillary dilation or dilatation, shivering. These are functions. Now we are talking about anatomy, neuroanatomy, nuclei, and their functions. Then periphonical nucleus is responsible for hunger, increased blood pressure, rage. Then ventromedial nucleus is responsible for satiety, is a neuroendocrine control. Now at this particular juncture, let me also explain to you that this particular nucleus alone needs glucose for finding out how much glucose is there in the blood. Rest of the nuclei in the brain do not need nucleus that insulin at all. But if insulin is deficient or there is insulin resistance by and large, this particular center will not function optimally. As a result, a diabetic patient with reduced amount of insulin or insulin resistance would not know when to stop eating. That's the reason why diabetic patients continue to eat more than what they required, and they suffer from all the problems, because normally all of us, when we are about to be had enough of food we'll get a signal, enough, satiety, satisfied, you don't need any more. We all experience that, but diabetic patients are not able to experience because of insulin resistance or low resistance, because it's the only center which needs insulin. This information for diabetic patients will be required. Please make sure that insulin resistance is not there, or you have more than enough insulins to make sure that you don't overeat. Polyphagia should not be there. Polydipsia should not be there. Polyuria should not be there. Now you have a mammillary body also in the posterior part, but down. It is responsible for feeding reflexes. Now you can understand satiety and feeding are very close to each other. Arcuate, but mammillary body for feeding, you don't need any insulin, because you can eat anytime. Only satisfaction will not be there. Arcuate nucleus or periventricular zone are neuroendocrine glands. Again, then lateral hypothalamus, not shown here, is responsible for thirst and hunger. So now, having defined, explained the functions of the interior part, their nuclei and the physiology, and the posterior part, their nuclei and the physiology. Do you see anything coming out of this particular picture? Is anterior different from posterior? Yes or no? Think for a while. Got it? Okay. If you haven't got it, doesn't matter. Anterior part is, you can see, quote in quote, is like a parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest, digest, and conserve energy. So all cranial parasympathetic functions are parasympathetic functions. All those are related to the anterior part. And posterior part, primarily you'll find opposite of parasympathetic is sympathetic, is there in the posterior part. And sympathetic system is called sympathetic because its system sympathizes with the body, come what may. You should survive. And particularly when people are going to die, I have more problem where there is hyponatremia, low salt, hypovolemia, low water, dehydration, hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, and low oxygen, and all those things, when they go down so much, and they are the one which are responsible for death, are leading towards death. When you are heading towards death, sympathetic system comes to mobilize water, sodium, glucose, oxygen, heart rate, everything increases. So you can see the posterior part, all the signs and symptoms are very close to sympathetic, where anterior are the exactly opposite of parasympathetic. Rest, digest, conserve energy, and here it is mobilize energy for emergencies to make sure that we do not die. Now, another question which comes to my mind, why anterior portion is parasympathetic and posterior is sympathetic in nature? Any answers? Can you think what could be the reason? Reason is very simple. Hypothalamus means it is below thalamus. But thalamus is behind hypothalamus, not in front. And all the fibers, sensory fibers from the body, from feet right up to head, are carried to thalamus first before they go to cortex or neocortex for perception. And these fibers are from entire body, about every aspect, every sensation, whether it's hypoglycemia, hypovolemia, blood pressure, heart rate, respiration, everything is very close to posterior part. And nature has produced nuclei close to posterior part which need information for self-survival. So now we can definitely come to a conclusion how beautiful is nature design, what a wonderful brain, neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, neuropsychology, neurochemistry you have. And do we appreciate? And I think having understood this, it becomes our duty to make sure that come what may, let's make optimum use of this knowledge to make ourselves physically healthy, wealthy, wise, and happy, and lead a blissful life in the service of self as well as humanity by and large, and make the world a blissful place. So I'm sure now, having restricted myself to only autonomic nervous system, I am not talking of endocrine system, which is also with hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is the head ganglion for autonomic as well as endocrine. Both are responsible for subconscious and unconscious functions responsible for our survival. We, having spoken about the autonomic, subconscious, unconscious, let's not talk of endocrine, which we'll do at a later date. So I'm sure the importance of hypothalamus by and large is understood very clearly, and what to do and what not to do. So I'm sure in this particular picture also you can see those two symbols of hypothalamus as well as anterior pituitary and association with tantra. Anyway, it has been lovely talking to you and bringing forth that aspect of neuroanatomy and neurophysiology and neurochemistry and neuropsychology with which we can lead a better, healthy life. So thank you very much.